Hey, you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. I'm YouTube famous now. It is like super late, you guys. It is like, I don't even know what time it is. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning, where you gonna be? Outside on the corner. Can you guys tell? I'm like not feeling it. Okay. This is not a complaint video, I swear. I went to this like speaker tonight with my friend. We went to go hear this motivational speaker, and I came home afterwards. We went to go eat dinner afterwards, and when I came home, I was like so exhausted that like, I don't know if you guys ever do this, like I crashed and then like I woke up like an hour ago. And I've talked about this a little bit on my channel, but I haven't talked a whole lot about it, is that I suffer from night terrors. A lot of people that have neurological disorders suffer from them, and I have epilepsy, and so I've had night terrors my entire life. But one of the things that goes along with night terrors is that you wake up in like a total panic, and like if you sleep with somebody, they typically wake you up because you're like kicking or screaming in your sleep, and it's like, ah, like that's how it sounds. Like Alex has told me, he's like, you're like literally, you sound like you're shrieking in terror. And I guess I like woke up, like when he woke me up, I was like running in my sleep. So anyway, I completely soaked the whole bed. It's like I would have to like put a towel down to sleep there. It's like from like up from my pillows all the way down. It's just like completely soaked, because when you have night terrors, a lot of times you like have like, you exude like a ton of like perspiration. And anyway, it's just crazy. It's totally crazy. And if you've never had one, you totally have totally have no idea what I'm talking about. But what it really is a lot of times is it's like stress working overtime in your system, or like some issue that you're working out in your subconscious. And I am a big believer. Somebody just left a comment on my YouTube, and they said, and they said, you're way too deep for YouTube. I kind of take that as a compliment. But anyway, I believe that dreams and nightmares are your subconscious working overtime, right? And I also believe that they're like a collection of things that have happened during the day or during the week. And so like not everything like in your dream has to mean something. Does that make sense? Like if you have a dream of like, you know, I don't know, like a cane, let's say, like a walking cane in your dream, and then you think, oh, that means like I'm limping through life, or I need help, or whatever. Well, maybe it just means that you were sitting at the doctor's office and somebody walked in with a cane, and it triggered a memory in your head. Not everything has to mean something, but some things do, and I do think that some things are symbolic of other things in your life, and standing for other things. And I think dream interpretation is very, very interesting to work from a therapeutic and a psychiatric point of view, of which I'm not a psychiatrist, so let me just state that. But I've worked with a lot of psychiatrists with dreams and dream interpretations, and working with teenagers through the years. So anyway, I had this dream. So just so you know, when I was a little kid and I would have night terrors, my mom would come in and she would wake me up from the other room. A lot of times you don't wake yourself up from them. Other people have to wake you up from them. And it's not a nightmare, okay? It's 10 times worse. And my mom would wake me up, and if it was nice outside, she would like walk me around outside. And she would say, let's go clear your head. Let's get you some clear air. Like that's like kind of an old school, older generation kind of like idea to fixing problems, is like clearing your head and getting some fresh air, which I am a firm believer in that. So what's interesting is that today, if I have a night terror, I don't have them very often. I had one like a month ago, and I had another one tonight, and that's actually closer together than I usually have them. So people always comment on the cars that are driving by. I'm sitting at the post office, just so you know. It's like just an easy place for me to sit. So I have this nightmare tonight. So we went to this speaking engagement that was like in this place that very much reminded me of an old organization that I used to work in. And when I worked at this organization, I was in very much a toxic environment, okay? And what I mean by that is that the environment where I worked was not toxic. Like, it was a wonderful environment, and what we did was wonderful. But the people that I worked with were toxic. They were chatty, they were backstabbing, you couldn't trust them. We were a team, but we weren't really a team. Everybody was working against each other. There was a lot of this shit of like somebody going into our supervisor's office and blah, 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 and then you getting called into your supervisor's office and it was very high school, okay? And I didn't really know it at the time. Like, for a very long time, I just trusted that what we were doing was for the best intention of the program. And let me just say that in retrospect, what's interesting to me is that I can remember like going over to my best friend's house when I would leave there like the last couple years, and I would say either they're crazy or I'm crazy, and she would say you're not crazy, and I would say, and all this stuff would happen to me, right? And like I couldn't like figure it out. Like I couldn't understand like why I felt like I was being worked against, but like it didn't make sense because I trusted these people. So why would they ever come for me, if that makes sense? So anyway, what's interesting is that when I left there, after I left there, like in the next 2 or 3 years, several other people left there that would call me up and they would say, I'm really sorry for how you were treated. And it wasn't right. And there were a lot of conversations that were going on behind your back that you were not aware of. And, it was like if we would all sit around and talk about taking somebody down, but we never said, let's take that person down. But we all knew that's what we were doing. And we were all okay with that without saying it. And so it's interesting because I think to some degree I've had like residue of those old feelings happen lately. And so tonight when I was in this place, I was like, it reminded me so much of the organization that I used to work in, like in a good way though, right? That I think that like it triggered all these old memories of me like working in this toxic environment. And I worked really, really hard in my life at that time. And this is in 2008, right before my mom passed away is when I left there. I worked really hard to remove toxic people from my life. Like I don't allow toxic people in my life whatsoever, okay? And what's interesting is that I have never in my life met so many toxic people. I mean, tons until I got on YouTube. Like, tons, okay? And people could accuse me of the same thing. I mean, I could see how I could be toxic to some people's lives. But it's interesting the effect that toxic people have on you, because I am a big believer that, like, if you hang out with positive people, you'll be in a pretty positive mood most of the time, right? But if you hang out with negative people, your attitude will be negative most of the time. So for example, it goes like this. Like if you're with people that all the time they're consumed with talking about football and all they want to talk about is football, and they love the Colts, for example, then you're going to start loving the Colts and you're going to start getting into football and you're going to start wanting to talk about football, right? But if you hang out with people that love tennis and all they want to do is talk about tennis all the time, tennis, 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 and they're obsessed with Serena Williams, then you're going to kind of become obsessed with Serena Williams too, or you're going to kind of like not be part of the group. And we all want to be included, not, apart from something, right? And I think that's such a big part of the entire world. And there are some people out there that are very divisive in pitting people against each other, and because their very well-being depends upon being toxic, okay? And I really don't know that I think that these people know that they're toxic. Like, I don't know that I think that they wake up and think, today I'm going to be toxic, today I'm going to think I'm going to take somebody down, today I'm going to ruin somebody's life. I don't think they think that. I think they wake up and they think, they really believe in what they're doing. Like, I really believe that, and it was interesting because for years and years and years, my mom would talk about this book. She loved the writer Scott Peck, MD, who is a psychiatrist, and he wrote like The Road Less Traveled. And one of the books he wrote was called People of the Lie. And my mom would always say to me, you have to be very, very careful in life of people of the lie. And so I looked up tonight the definition of people of the lie. Here's the book right there. Can you see it? I should link it below. It's an amazing book. I haven't read it in years. But it says, one of the most powerful and disturbing books I ever read was People of the Lie by Scott Peck. While I say powerful and disturbing, I do not want to discourage you from reading it, rather the opposite. I believe that people will at some point in their lives encounter a truly evil person if they have not already. For anyone who doubts the existence of evil, I urge you to read People of the Lie and see if that doubt still exists afterwards. And then he goes on to talk about different kinds of evil. The idea that human evil exists is difficult for many people to swallow. Most consider evil too archaic a concept to apply in our modern scientific society. We want to reduce it to a medical diagnosis or some personality disorder, like being sociopathic, or something that can be managed with a pill. Not that this is surprising. We have a pill-obsessed culture. We have pills for weight loss, sleep, blah, blah, blah. But there's no pill that can cure evil. And then it goes in here to talk about it, about how the difference between a person... Well, here, I'll just read it to you. He described evil people as being aware of their conscience, but actively choosing to ignore it. I'm just going to say, going into this, you guys, I'm not saying nobody's names, okay? I'm not saying anybody's names. It does not, okay, Scott Peck does not discount the existence of various psychiatric disorders, including those that can cause people to behave in an evil way, but rather views evil as being a distinct problem that straddles the line between a personality disorder and a spiritual disorder, perhaps leaning towards the latter. He describes evil people as being aware of their conscience, but actively choosing to ignore it, as opposed to a sociopathic person who appears to be devoid of conscience altogether. In other words, an evil person knows that they are doing evil, while a sociopathic person does not, even though their actions may be very similar. Peck describes evil, this is very interesting, as militant ignorance. Evil people are obsessed with maintaining their self-image of perfection through self-deception. In addition, evil people will be very selective about who they inflict their evil upon, while going to great lengths to maintain an image, respectability, and normality with everybody else. As a result, evil people are often well liked by the majority, and their victims come across as being overly sensitive, having a persecution complex, or even victims, or even being crazy. Evil people, unable to face the painful reality of their character, will often place themselves in positions of power or moral superiority. I think really, when you look at this, interesting, I don't know if you guys know anybody that would fit that category in the world. I know lots, actually. You know, and I think about that, and that's what's scary to me, is that, like, I can remember, like, talking to my mom about this when I worked at this organization, and she would say, like, I didn't read that book until after I left there, and she would say, like, you need to read this book, and it will... how to deal with people like that. Like, you don't play into the power, okay? You don't play into the obviousness of it whatsoever. It's like, excuse me, and like very much like with the YouTube thing, it's like you don't read the comments, you don't read the tweets, you don't acknowledge it whatsoever. Okay? I mean, there's no reason to, right? Why would you ever think that you can in any kind of way fight pure evil? I mean, like, that's movie shit, right? But when we talk about toxic people, we talk about evil people, okay? People who, like I said before, that I didn't really think that they knew what they were doing, but I guess that per Scott Peck, the psychiatrist, they do. So, like, I mean, that's somebody that, like, in, you know, manipulatively and calculatively is doing things to take somebody down. Like, why would you do that? Like, if you think about that person, that their goal is to really ruin somebody and take them down for whatever, whether it's jealousy, whether it's envy, whether it is just, you know, revenge, whatever, there's nothing right about that. That is true evil, okay? Reciprocity, you know, of evil. And, like, that comes back on us tenfold. When I worked in that environment, and for me to keep up with toxicity, I had to some degree be toxic. I was in, like, such an unhealthy place, and it just, like, it stressed me out, and I was so tired all the time, and it's just, like, I'm sure so many of you relate to this, where you go into work, and you don't even want to go into, you love the work you do, like, you love doing what you do, whether it's, you know, like, working in a doctor's office, or working at the post office, or working in, you know, retail, or making YouTube videos, or whatever, you love what you do, but it's, like, the people that surround you are so toxic that you can't even enjoy what you do, right? And so it's like, it almost makes you like, do you ever like go say, I don't want to go into work today? And it has absolutely nothing to do with work. It has to do with the people that you work with, which when you think about it, we work more hours in a week than we spend with our family and friends. Like, think about that toxic residue that has on our lives, right? And so for me, it's about involving myself with people that are positive. It's about surrounding myself with people that are positive. Every one of my clients today that I have is somebody that absolutely is a joy to work with. I love going into my office on a daily basis, you know, and I think that that's kind of what it is it's finding your tribe of people that are positive to you and removing toxicity from your life. And if you're in a toxic environment, or you have been for years, where every day you go into work and you just can't even stand the people that you work with, don't leave your job today, but start looking for something else. Your life is not worth it. The stress that it puts on your body is overwhelming. Your family's tired of hearing about it. It's killing your sleep. It's killing your eating. It's totally unhealthy for you. Toxic people are toxic to your life, period. That's just it. And we can't do anything about it. We can't remove those toxic people from our lives, but we can remove the effect that they have on us, okay? You know, it's very much like Wizard of Oz when she says, you know, be gone before somebody drops a house on you. You know, it's like, I don't have to allow that toxicity into my life. I don't have to allow it to have any power in my life, right? I can turn a blind eye to it. I can just continue to do my thing, and I can continue to ignore it. The problem is that so much of the time, it's like when we work in a work environment, and I can remember this, it's like, you know, when I would walk in a room for lunch and like everybody would look up really quick, and like I knew they had been talking about me. Well, like, who wants to sit there and eat lunch after that, you know? And I did it to people too. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like the best person in the entire world, you know? And I think that's the problem is that when you don't know how to fight toxicity, you start becoming part of it at some point. I was so thankful when I left that place, and I'll never forget, a year after that, I was sitting on my friend Tanya's back patio, and I looked at her, and it was in the summer, and I said, do you remember I used to ask you on a daily basis, like, am I crazy or they're crazy? And she said, yeah, I remember that. And I said, I know today they're the ones that are crazy, I'm not crazy. And she's like, well, how do you know that? And I said, because I just feel so peaceful. Like, I removed myself from that environment, and I feel so peaceful today. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful night. Just talking about it helped me, my God. But in my dream, I did get a new Chihuahua puppy, and he was playing with Pee-Pee. Would you die? Would you die if I made a video tomorrow called Pee-Pee's brother and I held up this little Chihuahua puppy? It will never happen. My husband said no more dogs right now, so devastated. I would have like 10 dogs. I think dogs are so wonderful to come home to, because I think that they just love us so much, and they just remove all that negativity and hatred from our lives. I love when people have dogs that they're just like sweet and compassionate too. It makes me look at them in a whole different way. So anyway, I love you guys. Follow me on all my social media. I talked about this on my vlog too. Make sure you're following my daily vlog. I've done now 2 or 3 days, probably by the time you're watching this. So I love you. Bye.